Hi, I'm Clara, and this is the Practice with Clara podcast, where we go into philosophy and all things yoga related, which has been my passion for the last 20 years. This week's episode, we sat down with SJ, Sara Jade, a Kundalini teacher who used to own a yoga studio here in Vancouver, the Dharma Temple. We went into all things about the cycles of life, the cycles of seasons, and what we are letting go of for the fall. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. We hope you enjoy today's episode.
Welcome everyone to the Practice with Clara podcast. You're sitting with Stephanie.
And Clara.
And our lovely guest today is Sara Jade from Vancouver, who's a Kundalini Yoga teacher.
Hi.
A little backstory of SJ is we've known each other for a long time here in the yoga community. We've taught at many studios together, and then I don't know how many years ago, but maybe 4 or 5 years ago, you opened up your own yoga studio, and then I think relocated to a different space. And I would say that, and they recently, due to COVID and I think a couple other things, have shut down their brick and mortar spot, but then have kept going with the online offerings. And one of the things that I love about their studio is it's a lot of bhav, a lot of love, Kundalini meditation, sound healing, and all kinds of other moon gatherings. I felt like you really touched on, really created a community outside of just the physical practice, which I felt like was really needed and really well received.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I certainly miss, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for the invite. Big fan. Big fan of Practicing with Clara. And the podcast has been great to, stay connected to the other yogis in our community, even through these times, through the podcast. Because, I certainly miss gathering. Now things have opened up, obviously, since we've closed our doors, but the intention behind our space was to have that kind of space where folks could gather and, participate in spiritual practice and in feeling have a healing container, essentially, where they can explore different modalities and meet their teachers and community. So, I certainly miss that, but I wouldn't nix it from the plans completely. We have some things in the works. So, just all the great cosmic unfolding still happening. And just writing this out, this kind of time for now. And
So SJ, we like asking our guests 3 semi-random questions just for our listeners to get to know you a little bit better. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the first one is, name 5 of the things you'd choose to fill your garden.
Like in my actual garden?
Sure, or an imaginary garden.
Or your spiritual garden, whichever.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in my physical garden, in my actual garden, living where we live, I like to have tomatoes, cucumbers, peas. My daughter loves peas. I love to have flowers, especially flowers that I can cut and put around my house and put on my altar. And I don't know. We tried squash this year. That was a success, and I love squash. So those are my 5 vegetables or physical garden. And then my spiritual garden, music, dancing, movement, water, being in water, good friends, and good coffee, good tea.
Good one.
Yeah.
What's a question you've been sitting with?
Geez, I mean, it's all like every day, so many questions. I guess. How do I share my medicine at this time? Like how am I, best offering, best being of service? Like how can I continue to show up? That's a frequent one, but I feel like with how things are changing and us kind of shifting into digital and yeah, just people's sensitivity around gathering physically. I've definitely been sitting with that. How can I continue to show up and share, and not just like as a teacher or a space holder, but like for my daughter and my family too. So yeah,
Great.
like that. Yeah.
Last one, your favorite way to celebrate?
Yeah, gathering with friends, music, dancing, like a good old fashioned celebration. Food, music, friends. That's how I like to celebrate.
Great.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd kind of open this by talking a little bit. Everything you've said kind of goes into the online workshop that you're hosting, Inner Harmony. So the transitioning through the seasons into the autumn equinox. If you wanted to share a little bit about what you're offering your communities online in this workshop.
Yeah. So, I mean, so much of what was offered in the Dharma Temple is a reflection of my personal practices, mine and my partners, as well as, you know, everyone kind of that was choosing to gather there. It's around the elements, you know, so much of the basis of our yoga practice or Ayurveda, or, you know, is working with the elements, and those are present in the seasons. So my practice is really reflective in the seasons and how they shift and change, and the different practices that I've learned to lean on, you know, through the different cycles of the year and cycles of the life. You know, it's always this process of life, death, you know, and everything in between. And so the autumn equinox, we just kind of moved through, and the program Inner Harmony essentially is, it's meant to be like a supplementary kind of practice for autumn that comes with a few HD videos with, you know, breath and movement, but they're meant to be they're offered as a complete practice, but I kind of break them down into like simple tools, because for me, that's what's really, you know, in my journey of becoming a mother and, you know, shifting practices and shifting different spaces in which I was teaching in. And I find that it obviously is not one particular thing that works and will always work. What I've come to really lean on and trust is the simplest of tools, the simple tools that work for me. And then those are going to be different for every individual. So I kind of just created this, you know, just an offering of different tools woven into like 3 complete practices that I would suggest, you know, saying, oh, if you like this piece, you know, maybe taking it, practicing it for 3 minutes a day. Oh, here's a playlist, put it on, rest for the 11-minute tracks. Oh, you could do, you know, just allowing people to really own their, you know, autonomy and choose what their practice can look like, but then just like leaving it as an offering. And yeah, so it's a sweet little kind of autumn bundle of what I've been leaning on for the last, you know, few years, and a guidebook that kind of shares some of the key ritual pieces, but also like as that offering, like there's no set way to do it. So just allowing it to be really intuitive for whoever's taking part. And yeah, you can do it anytime. Like I did initially set it out as, oh yeah, maybe you could do it since it's 3 videos, could be done over those 3 days. But I mean, that's like I said, it's these little pieces within the videos that you can use anytime. And so it's good for fall.
And what would you, if you were to offer one kind of simple practice to our listeners in terms of this time of year, what would it be?
Ooh, well, I definitely think slowing down is key at this time, and allowing, you know, turning inward. You know, I definitely notice, you know, I feel like even in the last few weeks, a stark contrast between, you know, extroverted kind of summer energy, and now that it's, you know, this movement into fall is like I've slowed down. I've been like, okay, I really need to consolidate and start to look at some of the things that I had kind of shelved through summer. So yeah, slowing down. I mean, my practice right now is pretty simple. I'm just doing really simple balancing pranayama. So I really, you know, Nadi Shodhana, that's a simple thing that I really encourage at this particular time. And also, if you're into breath practices, doing a longer, I always enjoy that too. Like, 4 in, 4 hold, out 8 or something simple like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to read a few things that I pulled off of your webpage. And if you can comment on, just a little bit around from what I've read, elaborate on it and why it is that it's relevant and means a lot to you, if that makes sense. Okay.
Sure.
Step into the ceremony with self. Enjoy supportive practices to slow down. Breathe into a season of surrender and revel in personal reflection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, as I was saying, our life moves in cycles. And, I think a major part of a program that we've kind of been fed is in order to feel successful or relevant, it is this kind of program in keeping busy and maintaining like a hustle, even if it goes against our intuitive knowing that it is, it's time for more rest, it's time to slow down, it's time to harvest, and so what I feel like in offering ceremony of self is this opportunity to create the space, which doesn't necessarily matter what the content is within the space, but once you say, this is a ceremony, this is a sacred time, this is a marker of time where I'm going to acknowledge my growth, where I'm going to acknowledge, what I really need, to step in with authenticity or to be in alignment and integrity into this next cycle. Just to take the time and space to reflect on what those things are personally. That's kind of what I feel like I was meaning when I wrote that.
Great. I love the word surrender.
Yeah, surrendering, right? And, surrendering that idea that you need to be doing more and you need to be, I feel like even like the September and back to school, like, it is, and I think that there is something about, going back to school and doing deeper learnings, and for sure, but sometimes it can feel like there's like this, a little bit of anxiety. Maybe that's just me. I have anxiety. So that's constantly my work of trying to surrender into that and acknowledge and use what I can to resource my grounding. And I think like, as we move into the season, there is, especially in this year, so much that we are letting go. And I feel like we've actually been in like an autumn since spring. So I feel pretty good actually moving into this season, because I feel like, that we've just been in this cycle of grief really since spring. And so I feel like I've been shedding a lot. And now as we get here, I'm like, okay, now it's time to like rest and recalibrate. And also, I'm excited. I feel like I've got a lot to take into this, season of a little bit more introspection and hibernation. I plan on writing a lot.
So next piece, building off that. My life is a spiritual practice. My breath, body, emotions, and environment create my sacred space. I hold what I have with deep respect and reverence. I love and nurture through cycles of joy and grief.
Well, I feel like the reverence piece is really important to me, because I feel like this society is, I think a lot of society is now waking up, and perhaps even COVID has kind of showed us that, like the planet, we need to slow down on the consumption and materialism and basically exploitation of the resources that we have, to really value what we have. And so, and I mean, it can be so simple, and yoga teaches us that. I mean, sun salutations, like I think as a humanity, most of us have forgotten the simplicity and beauty of like a reverent meeting of the sun, and in many indigenous cultures and stuff, it's like you wake up and it's like a gratitude that the sun, there's another day of sunshine, because that means you're going to eat, and So I think that that reverence piece has been so important for me. And even in my things, like, you know, it's not, you know, I think starting these businesses and, you know, living quite simply, you know, both my partner and I are yogis, and we're a little family. And so there's not, you know, there's no pool of wealth to draw from necessarily. Like, we're abundant by all means, but it's never been about like, oh, that's broken, like just go buy a new one. You know, I just think like there is this reverence for our objects and like really loving the things we have. I would like to personally become a little bit more like handy at like mending my clothes. I have a sister-in-law, she's awesome at that, so I'm very lucky. But definitely like reverence for, you know, life, for nature, for the, you know, the blessing of being able to just share space with someone. Like, yeah, that's kind of what I meant by that, by the reverence. I think it's really important, and I try to impart that. Reverence for life too, right? Life and death. I think that that's a big piece that's been kind of left out of society a lot of times, is that grief is also, you know, worthy of our attention and the celebration of their life, or the life that was lost, or whatever the, you know, the grief pertains to. That's where, and in the Dharma Temple, you know, I really try to bring that in, that those pieces in, that we don't just gather when it's like celebrating someone's birthday or someone's pregnancy. You know, there's also a gathering to witness folks, and, you know, when people are really going in it, you know, whether they've lost a parent or a child or a job, or, you know, I think that that's a big part. And I try to really hold space for that polarity of joy and grief. Yeah.
Great. That brings us, you're talking so much about cycles, which is where I wanted to go in this. It's pretty simpatico. So Clara, if you could speak to the deities in terms of how each of the deities express the cycles that we live in, and the importance of having each of these energies present.
So in what Steph is asking is in terms of an Indian philosophy, there's a Hindu pantheon is what we call them, and they are a community of deities. And so there's a masculine aspect and the feminine aspect, the masculine being the Tri-Murti, and then the feminine aspect being the Tri-Devi. And they represent the three parts of the cycle, the beginning, the middle, the end. So the birth, the preservation, and then the destruction. And so in the masculine aspect, in the Trimurti, that is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And in the feminine aspect, that is Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Durga. And so if you're new to the Hindu gods, they are, in India, they're definitely revered as actual beings, but at least in my own practice and studying with my father, who studied a lot of mythology, we think of them or use them as archetypes. And so Brahma being the creator of worlds, and Vishnu being the sustainer of worlds. And how Vishnu usually shows up is through an avatar. He usually comes to Earth when humans need inspiration to keep going. And so a lot of the avatars, we would say, would be like Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha. All of those, they say, are avatars of Vishnu, who helped to kind of give inspiration to the human race to keep going. And then good old Shiva, who is the patron saint of yogis, is the destroyer, or the transformer. And then the feminine aspects of that, the first one being Saraswati, I like to call her the muse of creation. She inspires all that is created. So that's why she's the feminine aspect of Brahma. And then the sustainer is Lakshmi, and she is one of the most popular gods that people worship in India, because she is the goddess of abundance and fertility. And who doesn't want money and babies, right? So she's really popular for what she holds, the archetype that she holds. And then the warrior is Durga. And so if you've ever studied Greek mythology, Athena is a very similar kind of parallel to Durga, and she is the warrior or known as the ruthless mother. And then the darker aspect of her, we've talked about her before, is good old Kali. Beautiful tongue and her strong ways of changing or transforming. And we as yogis love generally the transformers, the destroyers, because that's what our practice is. And I'm sure SJ can definitely speak to that in terms of her own practice, right? We're doing a lot of our mindful practices are a way of kind of creating and igniting parts of ourselves, and at the same time shedding aspects or weight that not physical weight, but actual like energetic weight that might be holding us down. And so that's the destruction part of the cycle. And so at least for me, I feel like SJ, you'd probably feel the same way. Like this is my favorite time of year as we come into autumn, because we are moving from the light into the darkness, this time for introspection, which is what we as yogis, I think, thrive on, is like this opportunity to go inside and to start to kind of observe what's there and what needs to die this season, right, as we go into the darkness. So yeah, I think I'll leave it there. I can keep going. But yeah, feel free, SJ, if you've got anything you would love to add.
Yeah, I just the Shiva, I mean, I think that's where, like, I've studied under a few teachers, and Shiva is definitely like a big piece. And so I feel like there was like a big, devotional side of that, destructor and, the burning away of karmas, and to step towards Dharma. And I feel the presence of, those three energies so much in that are always, always present in my life in different ways and in my practice. And yeah, it's just interesting to kind of revisit them, because I haven't really been, bringing a lot of deities in. I was when Steph, when you said Clara's going to talk about that, I was like, oh great, story time. I love it and I miss it. So yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, and then Shiva, just to kind of build on that just a little bit more, that one of the things that I love about Shiva is that he's seen one of three ways. The first way is he's seated in meditation, which is why a lot of yogis use him in terms of inspiration. And when he's sitting in meditation, he's connecting to the collective consciousness, or the consciousness that is in all things. And then the second way is that he's dancing the Tandava, which is the dance of destruction. So if you've ever been to a yoga studio that has a big Shiva in it, you normally see it with like a ring of fire around him, and he's got one arm up and one arm down and one leg up, and he's dancing the dance of destruction. And as we know, like, destruction is such an important part of the cycle, because we do need to shed in order to be reborn, right? In order to come and feel and be from a clear space. So that's why after we round off the winter solstice and move towards the spring, right, it's this opportunity for the light to come back, but we do need the darkness. And at least I think for all of us, we really appreciate the darkness is such an important part of the practice itself. And then the third one, which I don't always talk about, but is when he's making love to his to the feminine aspect, which is Shakti or Parvati, depending upon. So that is the dance of creation. So so it's interesting, because he's seen either in seated meditation, deep in contemplation, or he's literally destroying or shifting the world around him, or he's creating, right? He's finding union with the feminine aspect of himself. Of us, right? The two sides of our own being. And so Shiva is also, and Shakti live within us, which I also think is a powerful image.
Yeah, I wonder, like, with that, the dance, and also, the burning through and shedding and destroying of structures and systems that we're kind of witnessing happening now.
Yes.
The major upheaval, major destruction, everything kind of has to, it's like the phoenix, has to burn completely in order for new life to emerge, new creation to come through. And so I just feel like we're kind of in this like shift Shivas of, you know, the dance, the destruction, and the merging of Shiva Shakti, basically, like, you know, this merging. And also, like, I think even on a like, okay, self-collective, like what's going on out there seems very chaotic and like breaking down and bursting into flames. And, you know, how do we kind of turn that in to ourselves to kind of find that balance within ourselves? And that's, I think, will create the outer, you know, shift and rebalancing that we really need on this planet at this time.
Yeah,
but
I'm
think
really
it's not.
Go ahead. No. Keep going, Estee.
Yeah, just that. Just, you know, I think like it's all fine for us to go like, I really hope this changes, you know, without taking that personal responsibility of doing the deep inner work. Yeah. It's like, you know, how do those systems and structures and what needs to go in me, you know? And I mean, yogi is a meditator, is like, this is our work. We probably have been consistency looking at all of these things, but I think we've been open. There's an open invitation to go deeper with a lot of those things. There's always an invitation
to go deeper.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And how and another question to think of, chew on, is like, what is my role in the chaos that is around? Because we are not innocent. Nobody's an innocent bystander in what's happening in the world around us, right? We all play a part, for we are part of the collective. And so I feel like that's a beautiful piece that I feel like a lot of people are also sitting with, is like, what is my role in this? And then the next question is, what do I want my role to be, you know? And how do I want to create change, not only inside, because yes, we do that, but we also, because there's so much happening outside, how do we want to contribute to the change? Which is so exciting.
That's really back to what question are you sitting it with, is really, it's like, what is my contribution? Like, what am I contributing to the collective, even the collective noise and everything that's happening? And then, you know, what's my contribution? Like, how do I want to, you know, what am I bringing? You know, am I contributing to, you know, this by bringing, you know, more fear or more love? Really, this is the polarity. And so, yeah, I think sitting with those kind of questions right now, it's like, seems like a good time to go in to that.
So in terms of inner work, if each of you could describe, I was thinking more along the lines of breath, just because breath to me also represents the cycles, the inhales, creation, exhale is the death. If you could speak to your relationship to breath and or Kundalini Yoga, because Kundalini Yoga is a lot of Kriyas, Pranayams, right? It's very stimulating and excitatory that way. So what are your practices currently, or what's your relation to this right now?
To my breath or to Kundalini? Okay, so I mean, as I was saying at the start, like my practice has been a lot more pranayama for balancing right now and focusing on letting go. And I have a tea practice that I enjoy. And so, you know, sitting with tea as a means to create more space in my day has been really nourishing.
Can you go into the tea ceremony a little bit, just so for our listeners who are unfamiliar?
Yeah, so tea came into my life like about probably 4 years ago, and the ceremonial kind of aspect of it, the way it was presented, the first time I sat, I was like, felt so calm, and the way that it's off, like tea serves everyone. That's what I love about tea. You know, you go into anyone's home, anyone's kitchen, you know, basically on the globe, like you're going to be served a cup of tea. And it's like this beautiful gesture of, you know, generosity from the heart to warm your heart, you know, and tea has this innate, like tea is the teacher. That's what I love about tea. There's no hierarchy. There's no, you know, person on a podium. Like it's just leaves in a bowl of water. It's so, you know, it's a connecting into the elements. It's a teacher to teach you how to be receptive. And for me, in this, in the space that I came to the practice, I had a toddler basically. I was busy, with the studio, in that whatever stage of growth that was in. I wear a lot of hats in that in that space. So, sometimes I wouldn't make it to my mat, certainly. And even meditation, like it's been my work, even conquering my inner need to do, that imbalance of masculine, feminine, however you want to see it, sun and moon, the achievement, the filling of the space, basically, with more things, to get ahead or whatever. So the rebalancing of that really started with tea. I mean, it started before that, but tea was a really big instrument in stepping over that and making more time and space to go in and tune into that, the receptive to self, to great nature, to spirit, whatever you want to call it. But that's kind of how I found that space on my own, just carving, because I think even tea in itself has a little bit of nostalgia. Like if you sat with your grandmother and you had fine china, and there's this remembrance, and even like as a little girl, like having a tea party. So coming to tea felt like coming to home. And then it was with a way that it's prepared in this, it's like a Zen style, meditation, silent meditation, where you're just, Zen, like one thing at a time. So it's like you pick up one thing, you pass it to your other hand, you set it down on the opposite side of the table. It's just very intentional, mindful practice, but still engaged. And it's, it's also working with chi. So you're using spiral energies, everything's moving in. If you're serving others, it's very like heart, moving into the heart and moving out. So you're connecting in with your guests as you share tea in an experience. So I don't know, I fell in love with it. And the piece about the tea time, I found that that's what I really needed as a mom, and a business person at the time, because I was just feeling all the time, like if it wasn't like I wasn't engaged with my daughter, I was doing something for the business, or I was, making dinners or whatever. But once I started doing tea, or sitting with tea rather, like I was making the time, like I was like, okay, at 3:00, I'm going to set my tea space, which isn't just, boiling the kettle and putting in a mug and putting in a tea bag. Like it's like sweeping the whole room and, placing everything intentionally, and also tuning in, like what is it that I want to cultivate in this space at this time. As I kind of mentioned earlier, like it's not about like the content. Actually, what tea taught me is like, if it's not adding, then it's taking away. Yeah. And I think that this piece really resonated with me, because there was a lot of things, and is still presently, in our lives, there's a lot of things taking our energy. And so I think if we can really simplify and really like take a good look and go like, okay, what am I really grateful for in this space right now? And then everything that's kind of, pulling at you, like it's maybe time to like do that fall clear. So yeah, taking the time and space, I think like time for tea became time for me. That opened up, a lot of healing. And so, yeah, I definitely make time for her most days. And if not most days, then yeah, just really special times that I'll sit with her. So yeah, it's a little on tea, but it's a personal thing, like I'm not gonna, I can't really share any teachings, because tea is the teacher. So, it's your personal.
Quite a bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I meant like, what I meant is like, I feel like you did, just by talking about the ceremony itself, I felt like was a beautiful teaching. The tea is the teacher. I also love that you said that if it's not adding, it's taking away. Right? That's so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big one for me. And thank you. Yeah, it just really, that one really, like, tea rippled into the rest of my day. It rippled into my home, like and it's the same with meditation. It's like, if your room space isn't clear, or you roll out your yoga mat and your room's messy, like that's your mind's being pulled. Like I should really put that pile of laundry away. It's the same, It's the same thing. It's not adding, it's taking away from the experience.
Yeah. And you're like,
It's not,
no, thank you.
It's not adding to the bob.
Yeah. My pranayama experience has been in the last couple of days is 5 deep breaths, putting my baby down and taking 5 deep breaths, because she's just having a bit of a hard time right now. And then it's just hard sometimes. So my pranayama practice is put the baby down, 5 deep breaths, or when things are going really well, we do a lot of fluttering of lips, which is amazing. So I do that all day with her. She's like obsessed with it.
Oh, she must love it.
Oh my God, she does it. And so that's when you know she's in a good mood. And so all of a sudden she starts going, and so we do this. So I have a lot of very relaxed jaw, I feel like, because of all this amazing work that we're doing together. Or I'm putting her down and taking 5 very deep breaths to connect to the center, to come back to a place of calm and still.
And that in you doing that, and you doing that, calming and coming into your center and calming your nervous system, she's learning that. She's learning how to self-regulate and self-soothe, even if it's not happening for right now. She is learning that. It's so cool. I love that.
Yeah, and what's amazing is that if she's having a meltdown and I put her down, she actually takes a minute. She knows that I feel like she knows mama needs a minute. And so yesterday I needed a minute and we did it. And then I thank her and I say, thank you. Mama really needed that. And now she's back, because it's amazing how screaming, very loud screaming, can really, really rattle the yogi mama.
Yeah. I know. It's like, and then what comes through this subconscious program? Like, I know. Like,
that's what comes out of me.
I would say that.
Yeah, totally. And so you have to be like, okay, I'm gonna take a minute. Steph, are you doing any pranayama right now?
Mostly the 4-part breath. When I meditate, I'll do some pranayama to begin and end, just to ground so I can kind of settle, but nothing excitatory, mostly grounding.
Yeah, this is the time of year for it, and highly recommend all of our listeners to be doing that kind of breathing right now too. So good. Deep breathing. Or regulating. Or just flutter your lips. I also recommend that one.
That's a good one.
I feel like, SJ, you talked about, my next question was, what is your relationship to ceremony and how do you create sacred space? But you kind of spoke to in the tea ceremony. So maybe talk about, in terms of the moon circles that you used to offer, or any of the other kind of ways you are currently creating sacred space and doing ceremony with yourself or your family.
Can we, before you go into it, SJ, can you define ceremony for you and sacred space?
Yeah, I mean,
thank you.
I think ceremony to me, in a way, induces a change of state almost. It's like a marker to reflect a change of state, or like just a process. Like, you come in one side and then you're not the same on the other, if for whatever reason. And that's a yoga class. Essentially, I would think I like that. If you can enter onto your mat as a ceremony. And what I feel about claiming space, or setting space rather, and stepping into ceremony, I think like that begins when you say yes, like I'm gonna do the ceremony. That's when it starts. So that's where you're stepping in. And I think that sacred spaces, what I would share, when we were doing the moon gatherings, or even in our program Aquarian Luminosity, like sacred space is where you claim it. and you set, it's like what I said about my tea time. I'm like, this is the time. If this is sacred, this is when we transition out of, the day-to-day, the grind, and now everything in this space is sacred. Like we've claimed it as such. And so it's as simple as that, really. Like, I don't think it needs to have like incense and bells and, it is like, this moment is sacred because I am here with three beautiful, women. We're, holding each other, and that's sacred, and tea is something as simple as tea, but I carve out the time and space. I make an intention to commune with this plant, and that feels really sacred to me. So it's this transition from like mundane into sacred that is, it's just because I make it so. Yeah.
Clara?
Yeah, I kind of riffing on what SJ said. I feel like it's a decision. It's a decision to shift gears is the biggest one for me, at least, to shift my mindset and to generally it starts for me with a deep breath. So I make the decision and I close my eyes and I take a deep breath. And I love that you're like, you don't have to burn incense or have some fancy things going on around you or have a particular music or whatever. It is a decision to make it so. I love that. And so, yeah, for me, it's generally, this is what's happening, deep breath in. And as I exhale, I envision I'm kind of letting go of the mundane and what came before and what needs to happen after, and to arrive here. And sometimes that involves lighting a candle or doing some sort of like, the idea of those kinds of rituals is to kind of shift gears. I love this. I learned so much about the tea ceremony. Thank you. I knew very little. So it's the same idea, like, right. You start by turning on the kettle, I'm assuming. So it's like, and now it begins, And so, I generally, for myself, I like to burn something in the room where I go around the room and I envision that the smoke is literally clearing away. Like before I teach my morning intensives or teach a training, I'll do that as a way to kind of clear any of the energy that was gone. But other ways you can do it is literally, I've had friends who just clap sound, if you don't have it, you just move. Yeah, exactly. Sound around the room, or you could breathe around the room and envision that the breath is kind of shifting the energy of the room. Oh, that's perfect time. So that would be, I think, the way that we would start creating sacred spaces, through the decision, through the breath, and then through clearing the space in some way, shape, or form. I love this idea also of sweeping. Same idea, movement in the room.
Yeah, sweeping the energy, sweeping the cobwebs, sweeping the energetic body, our physical body, rather, and stepping into something new, stepping into the sacred. And I love that you said, taking the deep breath. It's like embracing this sacred breath, this sacred life. That goes back to reverence. It's like this breath is sacred.
Yes. And you can do that anywhere. And I feel like that's something that people, ideally, I'd love for our listeners to take that as like, you can make anything sacred. It's just the decision to make it. So you can wash your dishes in a sacred way. You can, you can eat food with, or walk down the street or whatever it is. And the idea of the sacred is to come to the present moment. And so to arrive here and let everything else fall away just for a little while, knowing that you can pick it all back up again and continue on. But that shift of state, I love the way you said that. It is a shift of state, so that when you arrive, it's kind of like the revolving door, and you end up, you get into that revolving door, the sacred space, and then you end up on the other side and another space.
And what you said about like leaving it, and then you can pick it up on the on the other side, and that even going into the space with an intention, maybe you pick it up and you feel differently about picking it up. That's what I love about ceremony, is it going into a sacred ceremony in that way to shift things, because it will shift your perception, and possibly you feel differently, and that's super powerful too.
My last question was around the process of letting go. So either speaking to something that you're putting down and not picking up again, or your relationship to letting things go. If you're the kind of person who can easily walk away from situations, or if you carry it for a really long time. What does this look like?
Well, I think that by nature, I want to hold on. I like to keep my people, like I love my people. I love my things, moments, memories, like I really savor those things. You know, I think that I can really speak to the letting go and letting go of the physical space of Dharma Temple. Like that's obviously like the largest piece that I had to let go of recently, and was a big loss because it was, you know, a creative portal that I poured my energy into the last, you know, 4 years, and even before that when we had the other space for a time as well. And really it was a container, it was holding a lot for a lot of people. And so I definitely, in just the way things unfolded, like the abruptness, like there was a lot to let go of all at once. So definitely there's like a big process in that. But also I think too, when we let things fall, like when the leaves fall off the trees, they fall to the earth, and just like that, knowing that like the earth is there, I've got you. And so it's like this letting go with trust, you know, if it's not this, it's something greater. If it's not this, it's something else. Like, and that's like, I think that surrender piece and the letting go to just allow yourself to be held for a time, and until, you know, that flash of insight comes and it is time to regenerate and create something new. But that doesn't come without like the rest and receive and the rest and digest of that stuff, right? I think that's what the fall and winter will be. Like I said, I feel like autumn happened for me in spring. And so I feel like I have actually processed a lot of that. And now I'm feeling, you know, as we move into fall, and it is the earth element that connects to the fall. And it's like, I feel, you know, fall, winter rather, I feel held right now. Like, I don't know why, because it's still, you know, there's still lots of unknowns, but this kind of feeling as we, you know, as I created that program in a harmony, I just felt like this, like, I got you energy come in from source. And yeah, that makes me feel like I feel like I've got the sustenance, I've got the nourishment that I need to kind of go forward with that, you know, with the respect to that deep letting go. Yes. And there's still more there. And it's still like, that's what, you know, I think grief is, you know, it's not linear. I think that grief needs, you know, continuous movement, and it comes up at weird times, you know, like I haven't had the opportunity to go to many community spaces, as I'm sure most of, you know, our listeners and you both haven't either. But I did go to one class, and, you know, it was a Kundalini class, and there's been a lot that's happened in the community. and just the collective and our losing our center here in Vancouver, I shouldn't say lost, choosing to step away from the brick and mortar. But just the grief and the stuff that came through in that moment was, you know, I was like, oh, there's still more to let go, you know, still continuing to. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with letting go right now. I don't know if I answered the question.
You did.
Precisely.
Okay. That's great.
You did. It was perfect.
That's so good. So much letting go. I feel like the largest part of letting go is, we were talking about this when we had Carolyn on, this letting go of like who I was before. So there's been a lot of like, I'm no longer the person I was, and I'm in the middle, or not the middle, I'm starting to become this new being. And so there's been grief, not only I feel like in terms of our community, there's been a lot of studios that have shut down in our community here in Vancouver, as well as the pandemic. But I've also had like my own grief around the identity that I've been sitting with for 40 years is like shifting. So, or not 40, like that's dramatic, because I've definitely shifted quite a few times in the span of my lifetime, but this is a big one right now. So I feel like I've been sitting with that. Yeah. And so what a perfect time to go into the dark.
Yeah, definitely.
I get excited about the dark.
Yeah, just cozy right into that discomfort.
Yeah, right in. Yeah.
Yeah,
Acorn squash.
that's right.
Oh, it's so great.
Are you letting go of anything, Steph?
Yeah, I feel like I've let go of a lot. I'm currently sitting with what I want to pick up. So I feel like I've already put all the things down, and I'm good at letting things go. That's why I wanted to kind of ask you what you thought. So it was cool, Esther, hearing you say I hang on. I'm the opposite. I'm consistently like probably a little bit too quickly
Me too.
purging. Yeah, I'm
like,
quick
cool,
to
bye.
Yeah, drop it. Yeah.
No, I'm like, this can work.
Yeah. So I'm currently being more patient in the process of what I'm going to pick up. And I'm hoping that the darkness, this more introspective period, something will surface. So I'm just patient around that because I've put a lot of stuff down, as many have. Maybe not SJ. I'm teasing.
No,
SJ's been doing great.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This was great. Yeah.
Thank you both. So fun.
Yeah, really nice to have you, SJ. And we'll have all of SJ's offerings and her where you can find her in the write-up. So we'll have links for that, and we'll hopefully have you back on at a later date. And Steph, great questions. Thank you so much for holding the space and creating it with us. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today on the podcast. Today's podcast was brought to you by the Practice with Clara app. That's mine. I've created almost 100 yoga classes for you to do at home or on the go. And they're available to you on your favorite device, including mobile, desktop, and TV. These classes include vinyasa, slow flow, hatha, restorative, yin, mantra, meditation. I also just had a baby, so I created prenatal yoga for all 4 trimesters. So head over to clararobertsoss.com/join to learn more. Or search for the Practice with Clara app at your favorite app store. There's a 7-day free trial, so no commitment. And make sure to subscribe to the podcast. We've got lots of good stuff in store for you. Until next time, namaste.